Thanks for joining us for Moving into Agile Leadership. I'm Lindsay with Beyond 20, and I'm here with our very special guest, certified Scrum Trainer extraordinaire, if I can be so bold, Tamara Runyon. She is here to present what I think is a pretty fascinating conversation around traditional versus Agile leadership. So before we get into it, I'm going to really quickly tell you a little bit about us, Beyond 20, and then give Tamara the proper introduction she deserves. So onward. We are a 360-degree, all things IT, best practice, consulting, and training firm. In addition to the Agile and Scrum training and consulting we also do anything IT service management related, and that, of course, includes the full suite of ITIL training from foundations all the way up through expert. Additionally, we do strategic planning and road mapping for IT organizations. We also look at cybersecurity best practice, and that includes training and consulting as well, in addition to tool implementation. We're a Sharewell partner, as you can see there, along with Bomgar, Firescope, and Microsoft Project. So, without further ado, I'm going to just straight up read this bio for Tamara, so I'm sure I don't screw it up, and then I'll toss it over to her to tell you all you need to know about leadership in an Agile environment. Tamara Runyon is a Scrum Trainer and Enterprise Agile Coach with more than 30 years' experience in business management and software development. Tamara became a certified Scrum Trainer in 2006. As a thought leader, Runyon sat on the board of directors of the Agile Alliance from 2008 to 2012. She's lead author of the research paper Agile EVM, Earned Value Management in Scrum Projects, and other industry publications. Her techniques in Agile EVM are now used by major corporations in the defense industry. Currently, Tamara is an independent coach and Agile trainer with advanced project management. Prior to establishing APMI in 2014, Tamara was employed by Intel Corp as an enterprise Agile coach working with hardware and software teams across the organization. So, with that said, I will toss it to the one and only Tamara Runyon. Take it away, Tamara.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Today I want to discuss thoughts and ideas around becoming an Agile leader. We'll explore the paradigm shift that must occur. We'll compare characteristics of traditional work teams with Agile teams, differentiating traditional management styles from Agile leadership. We'll focus on Agile team leadership, Agile teams at all levels of the organization, up to and including executive teams. And finally, we'll explore the need for servant leadership throughout the organization and the art of letting go of old ideas, biases, and behaviors. So let me go ahead and get started. What makes a team? Richard Hackman, in a 2004 article in Psychological Science, gives characteristics of teams. In his article, he includes the ideas that a team has boundaries and a moderate stability over time. There is interdependence between members and team structure that enables rather than impedes teamwork. What else makes a real team? In his article, he states that there must be a compelling direction or vision, in other words, how do we win, and a task that requires interdependence to achieve an outcome. The vision engages people to share commitment and to contribute their unique talents, and in some sense, subjugate themselves to the team. Traditional teams are management-driven. Management sets team goals, they provides team composition, and directs the team on how to meet the goal. Team members are often isolated specialists, particularly in a matrixed or projectized organization. There are many job descriptions on a traditional team. Another characteristic is limited information sharing, and team members have function or department focus rather than a team focus. Often there are multiple levels of management involved. Organizational design is often based on control and risk mitigation. Policies and processes that shape the organizational relationships are based on assumptions and ideas from previous centuries, when piecework was common and teamwork less necessary to meet complex product and service demands. In a piecework-based organization, designing the organization around process efficiency makes sense. Creating teams of specialists, putting in boundaries between departments, and managing by process, establishing hierarchical order, these are all designed to increase economies of scale. Additional characteristics of traditional teams are that they have high management commitment. Managers are often more committed to achieving the goal than protecting and supporting the team. Team members have little control over their environment or work assignments. Team members have segregated goals. Team improvement is often incidental rather than a focus of attention. Decisions are made based on policies and procedures. Management policies and procedures in a traditional organization emphasize efficiency over effectiveness. In predictable environments, this also makes sense. However, in complex, unpredictable environments, a more effective design structure will focus on effective response to change in order to deliver the highest business value and to compete in a rapidly changing environment. The nature of our economy and of our work has shifted dramatically over the last 3 decades. This is driving the paradigm shift that managers and leaders face now. Thought workers dominate our economy. Google, Microsoft, Apple, and many others are excellent examples of this. Even in more traditional industries like banking or insurance, thought workers are dominant. Another example is that in modern cars have more software now in them than the Apollo spacecraft did. Change and complexity has become a fact of modern life, and rapid change at that. This move into complexity is driving the need for agile teams and for agile leaderships. Let's talk about agile teams. Characteristics of agile teams are self-organizing. They enjoy shared goals and high team member commitment. They practice continuous improvements, leveraging feedback loops, and they focus on delivering valuable products or services. So, agile teams are self-organizing teams. From Kimball Fisher's book on leading self-directed work teams, he says that self-organizing teams have a strong sense of purpose, strong personal commitment, they display creative and spontaneous behaviors, have high levels of energy and enthusiasm. And from these teams, inherent order emerges from their activities. Agile teams are self-organizing, and a self-organizing team is a group of employees who have day-to-day responsibility for managing themselves and the work they do with a minimum of direct supervision. Team members handle work commitments, plan and schedule their work, and make decisions and take actions on problems. Agile teams are also business-driven. They accomplish their work with cross-functional team members to produce value. They have limited role descriptions. Team members pick up necessary tasks to accomplish the goal. They believe in open information sharing and experience a relatively flat hierarchy. Agile teams respond to change quickly. They have a solid sense of shared purpose, enjoy unified commitment, display creative and spontaneous behaviors, have high levels of energy and enthusiasm, and enjoy a high level of trust, internal and external, in the organization. They create transparency and manage conflict well. They create standards of excellence through group norms. These teams are self-managing and decide what work to do as well as how to do the work. In order to be self-organizing and self-managing teams, they must be empowered teams. Empowerment is a function of authority, information, resources, and accountability, according to Kimball Fisher in his book, Leading Self-Directed Work Teams. Agile teams plan and schedule their work. They are responsible for completing the work, and they have the authority to get the work done. They don't do this in a vacuum, however. Agile leaders play a critical role. Agile leaders at all levels of the organization must manage boundaries and remove impediments. They provide an environment where team members are engaged, where team members enjoy psychological safety. Agile leaders coach and encourage team members to learn new skills, and implement innovative ideas. A note on empowerment, however, and this is particularly important for Agile leaders. According to Kimball Fisher, if authority or resources or information or accountability are not present, then empowerment is not present. Empowerment helps team members feel that engagement. Daniel Pink defines motivation for people as feeling autonomy, purpose, and mastery. Empowered teams provide all three of those. Empowered teams are self-sufficient groups of people working together with specific goals. They have corporate authority and responsibility, experience, and skills to enact their own decisions. Clearly, empowered teams are engaged teams. What are some Agile team behaviors? To understand leading Agile teams, we have to understand those Agile team behaviors. In a July 2010 article in Sticky Minds, Johanna Rothman articulated her vision of Agile team behaviors. She believes that effective Agile teams have people who collaborate with team members and with others. They have people who ask for help when they need it. And they have people who are willing to take small steps and ask for feedback because they want to get better. They have a growth mindset. And Agile team members are people who are willing to do something that is good enough for now and be adaptable. And they have people who are willing to work outside their expertise to help the team meet its goals. Let's take a look at leadership and management now. Leadership and management are not the same things. Here's a quote from Lao Tzu. He said, "If you fail to honor your people, they will fail to honor you." It is said of a good leader that when work is done, the aim fulfilled, the people will say, "We did this ourselves." A famous quote from Peter Drucker is that management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. Clearly, management does not mean leadership. And in this paradigm shift, managers must become leaders, managers at all levels of the organization. In an Agile organization, leadership is necessary from delivery teams, program and portfolio levels, up to senior management levels. It is necessary to change the form of team leadership at multiple levels. All teams need a coach, even top-level teams. Traditional managers often focus on control, and they manage resources for efficiency. They manage through processes and procedure. Traditional managers feel that they are responsible for results by planning, controlling, and directing team members. They manage by maintaining control over decisions. A traditional manager is a leader above the team. They enjoy hierarchical positions and organizational authority. A leader must be hierarchical, and a leader is judged by his or her. An Agile leader may not be hierarchical, and an Agile leader is judged by his or her behavior, not by their title. A traditional manager perceives the group as a collection of individuals and relies on organizational authority. Traditional managers will drive teams. They carefully monitor performance and take corrective action. They're often concerned with lagging indicators, in other words, status reports, milestone measurements, etc. And they're comfortable with low risk, low initiative cultures. Leaders, on the other hand, support teams, provide their team with the vision to strive towards, and do whatever is necessary to ensure that their team succeeds. Traditional management is focused on centralized leadership, whether at the team level or higher in the organization. Centralized leadership is focused on the telling style of management, telling people what to do, when to do it, how to do it. On Agile teams, as teams mature in their self-organization, leadership focus shifts from a directive focus to more of a focus on the team and the organization. Focus on the people, how the team works together, the team morale, and removing impediments. Agile leadership behaviors are strategic, innovative. They use consensus with strong communication, delegation. Their focus is on relationships. Are the right people talking? Are decisions being made? Agile leaders are responsible for building a supportive context or environment in which the team grows. As managers move into Agile leadership, the focus changes to a more shared leadership style, moving to a more participatory style, where different leaders emerge at different times. The Agile leader keeps everyone focused on the goal. Effective Agile leaders develop collaborative cultures. They manage through values and principles and open communication. Agile leaders provide stability and generate trust. They are flexible to the circumstances, and they rely on interpersonal and persuasive skills rather than authority. Agile leaders use empowering behaviors such as modeling, boundary spanning, coaching, and mentoring. Their focus is on clear goals and managing the environment, providing support for their teams. The decisions are controlled by the team. Team relationships are valued. Agile leaders focus on the goal. They provide the goal. Traditional management is focused on traditional process-centric behaviors, focused on telling team members what, who, and how to do the work. Agile leadership is focused on people. Leadership is a complex interaction of leader, follower, and context. Agile leaders focus on clear goals, manage the environment, and providing support for their teams. They lead their teams. They don't drive their teams. They stand out in front of the team, analyzing the environment for dangers, in other words, working the system for the benefit of the team. They spend time developing team members so that they are capable of leading others. They use facilitation and self-regulating techniques with team members, also that their teams can stay focused and accomplish the goals that have been set. Agile leaders are collaborative leaders. To meet the demands of the paradigm shift that their move to Agile organizations is bringing, managers must cast aside their former mindset and embrace collaborative leadership. Collaborative leaders are willing to take risks. They're eager listeners. They're passionate for the cause and optimistic about the future. They're able to share knowledge, power, and credit. Hank Rubin in 2009 in an article entitled Collaborative Leadership, Developing Effective Partnership for Communities and Schools. It says that you are a collaborative leader once you have accepted responsibility for building or helping to ensure the success of heterogeneous teams to accomplish a shared purpose. David Archer and Alex Cameron in a 2008 article entitled Collaborative Leadership, How to Succeed in an Interconnected World tells us that getting value from difference is at the heart of the collaborative leader's task. They have to learn to share control and trust a partner to deliver, even though that partner may operate very differently from themselves. Agile leaders focus on fixing the system, not the people. As we mature as Agile leaders, we let go of our need for control and having it our way. We focus on fixing the system instead of managing individual behavior. As Agile leaders, we encourage creativity and provide intellectual stimulation. We mentor and coach people and treat them with individualized consideration. We encourage sense of purpose in people, and that brings inspirational motivation. We role model behavior so that we influence others and shape our organizational culture. All of this leads us to the art of letting go. As we mature as Agile leaders, we let go of our old patterns of thinking and embrace new belief patterns that are based on mutual trust, respect, commitment, and collaboration. We become collaborative, facilitative, servant leaders. We let go of our bias for status quo, knowing that this too will change. Servant leadership at all levels. As a servant leader as servant asks, how do I help my team achieve our goals? How do I help them grow as people? How do I help them emerge as servant leaders in their own right? Everything we do as Agile leaders is within the context of servant leadership at all levels of the organization, from teams on the production floor all the way through to executive teams. As servant leaders, we change our behaviors to meet our team's needs while modeling collaboration, trust, empathy, and the ethical use of power. We practice deep listening, self-awareness, and commitment to others. As servant leaders, we are ever evolving in our process. Servant leaders, like Agile, is not something we do, it is something we are. Thank you very much for listening to this webinar. I'm open for questions if you would like, and I hope that you have enjoyed this and received value from it. Thank you.
I have 3 questions here. The first question is around monitoring performance. You mentioned lagging indicators used in traditional management. How do Agile leaders monitor performance?
Well, there's some big differences there. So some of the lagging indicators might be using techniques like, for example, management by objectives, where you look back at what's happened over the last year and say, have you met these objectives? That's a good example of a lagging indicator. For Agile leaders, what they're focusing on, they're focusing less on the performance of the individual and more on the performance of the team. They're focused on ensuring that the system is set up to support that team and empower them to be able to make decisions and implement innovative products to create innovation right there through there. So it's less about managing the individual and more about supporting and providing that leadership, helping understanding here's the goal we need to get to and providing support for that. So if there are problems or questions, yes, they do go in and help manage conflict when it's necessary between team members. But it's not about managing individual performance. It's much more about managing or monitoring team performance, and they'll do that through the use of feedback loops. Retrospectives is a good way to do that. Looking at happiness index, for example, are your team members happy? Having set metrics ahead of time that everybody agrees on. How do we know that we've reached a goal? And ensuring visibility, transparency, so that team members know, the whole team knows, where are we in meeting our goals. Making sure to, an example of that might be making sure to publicize, here are our sales goals for a sales team, here are our sales goals for the quarter, and here's our progress towards that goal without calling out individual people on the team. We want to treat the team as a team. I hope this answer makes sense.
Yeah, and it leads me right into another question that came through asking about how the day-to-day is different from a traditional leader to an Agile leader. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely. How the day-to-day differs. When I'm working with organizations and helping them make this move into Agile leadership, I like to use an activity that I learned from Pete Deemer, another certified Scrum trainer. And this activity involves meeting with these managers and asking them to brainstorm on what are all the things that you do on a day-by-day basis. And so they'll do that, and we'll write the answers down on Post-it notes, and we'll collect all of that. And then we look at what are the things that you do on a weekly, a monthly, a quarterly, and an annual basis. And we capture all of that information. And then we move to, okay, what's going to change as we move into Agile, as we move into Agile leadership, what changes? And significantly, as they move through and they start looking at what are the different things that they do, the things that changes most is we're no longer focused on day-to-day directing and telling. It's much more focused on strategy and strategic implementation of plans at a higher level. It's much more focused on ensuring the system is efficient and effective. It's less focused on the people and more focused on the system and managing boundaries within and without the system and responding to change, ensuring that communication is occurring, ensuring that we have transparency. Those are all different types of activities than a traditional manager who would be focusing on monitoring and controlling decisions and activities.
I've got one. Okay, I got another one that came in that I'm going to try to consolidate with the other. My third question was how to make the cultural shift from traditional to Agile, but I want to tie that in with another question that just came in that seems related to me. What's the first step in transitioning from a hierarchical structure to an Agile structure? I imagine the cultural component is probably a part of that.
Oh, it's huge. And that cultural shift is huge. I'm going to approach these two questions, and you're right, they are related. I want to talk about what organizational culture really is and how that relates to individual people first, and then we'll talk about the tactical what can be those first steps. Think of organizational culture like an iceberg. And the thing about an iceberg is that 90% of an iceberg, approximately 90% of an iceberg, is underwater where you can't see it. The things that you can't see in our organizational culture have to do with people's mindset. They have to do with their beliefs about themselves and the way that the way the world works and where they fit in it, their values, their attitudes, their principles. All of these things are implicit. They're under the water. The things that you can see that are explicit about an organizational culture are people's behavior. Are they collaborative? Do they collaborate with each other, or are they more hierarchical? Are they more focused on their area or department, or are they focused on optimizing for the whole? And then the other things that you can see are the tools and the processes used within that organization. Organizational culture is actually the sum total of all of the people and their mindsets and ways of believing about themselves and the way that work is accomplished, the sum total of all of the people, but in particular with the leaders. Leaders set the tone for organizational culture in many different ways. And so when we start to look at how can we make this cultural shift, we have to recognize this is not an overnight thing. This is not a one and done. This is a series of different actions that take place, and we have to use empirical process control to do this. And what I mean by that is we have to be able to, it is so complex shifting an organizational culture. There are so many variables that interact in so many different ways that every situation is unique. What we can do is we can set the conditions for change. We can then put that change into place, and then we observe the reactions. We observe what happens. We inspect and adapt, and then we can set the next conditions for change as we steer our organization over the long run into more of an agile type of organization. We know that when we start working with agile teams, the first step might be to look at creating agile teams, creating these cross-functional feature teams at the product level. We know that when we do that over time, the ripples of change that occur enforces that we have to change the structure, the policies and procedures that bind us. We have to change our HR performance review systems and the way that we look at those. Change occurs throughout. It isn't something that occurs all at once, it occurs throughout, because in all of this, as leaders, we have to be providing psychological safety for people. If we aren't providing that psychological safety, we are going to get pushback. We're going to get reactions based in fear and anxiety. And that is going to, the gravitational pull into the old way of thinking is going to take over. And so we have to be very careful about how fast we introduce change into the organization, depending on what the organizational culture is like and how people are reacting. And we have to do this in an agile way. Okay, I know I got kind of a little bit off topic, but the topic is huge, how to make this cultural shift. I would say one step at a time. Make a shift, make a change, inspect what has happened within the organization, make another change. That doesn't mean you don't have a plan. You do have a plan, but you need to be able to adapt that plan to what's really happening as you move forward. I would also say that having a coach or a set of coaches who are invested in the outcome of your change, some people that have done this before at different organizations that can bring in that zero gravity thinking point of view where they're not bound by this is the way we've always done it here, that can help have a more objective point of view and help steer you and your organization around some of the potholes that may exist because they've been there before, they've been down this road before, is in my mind essential. Training is not enough. Coaching is essential.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Tamara. We're so grateful for your time. And as a friendly reminder, Tamara's going to be teaching a Certified Scrum Master class for us on June 4th and 5th in Fairfax, Virginia. So we hope to see your smiling faces there. If not, we've got a bunch of other classes coming up throughout 2018. We look forward to seeing you. So yeah, everyone have a lovely Thursday.
Thanks very much.